All right, go ahead.
Recording.
There I am.
All right, guys, the chat box is open and I already see the chats coming in. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. How was your class, Tony? You did a
Good.
Facebook.
Always good, but this is more viewer friendly with questions and things. So
Yes.
Facebook's great with the live, but you could multitask. I could just talk.
I saw your topic. What was it? 5 common mistakes that agents make. Was that right?
Right. 5 things that why agents fail.
Ah, got it.
That gets your attention.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of getting attention, it looks like we've got mostly 21 Mike team members on, so that's awesome. Always looking to improve, right?
Great.
I'll do quick introductions like I always do. You guys all know me, but for those who watch this video later, I'm Mike Ferrante from HomeStar, 21 Mike team. We're doing a half-hour training virtually every Tuesday, 45 weeks out of the year. We're going to do these. And Tony, we'll have to talk about possibly doing a replay or something, or if you want to take the couple of weeks that I don't, that was something that Brenda came up with. So thank you to Tony and Brenda, the owners of HomeStar, for sponsoring this. And if you guys ever have any questions, you can always reach out to me or directly to Tony, who's always available to answer your questions. Else you want to add to that, Tony?
No, that's great. No, always use me as a resource too.
Good. And as I mentioned, for those who want to watch these again or missed, we will upload these half-hour videos. They're half hour at the most. They're 20 to 30 minutes. They will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and I will see if I can grab that and put it in the text box, the chat box for you guys. Topic today, I think it's a great topic, and it's something that any newer agents really need to work. And it's talking to buyer leads. These are people who have contacted you. They come to you through some method, usually online. They inquire about a property, and you got to figure out how to talk to them on the phone. So I've got a really quick 3-question script that we're going to go through. And then the second thing is a longer list of a buyer consultation. So it's a comprehensive list of things you should be asking your buyers. Please remember, it's not important that you ask them all the questions. It's just important that you keep the conversation going, because I say this all the time, we're not really salespeople, even though our licenses say SAL in front of them. If we're salespeople, that's not really true. We are trusted advisors. We're consultants. And if you approach this business from the point of view of a problem solver, you will be successful. I promise you. If you go out there with an attitude of how can I sell and make money and how can I close deals, you will be less successful than if you just go out into the world and say, how can I help people? How can I solve their problems? I mean, isn't that true, Tony? You've done this for years.
Oh,
that's your number one thing.
Oh, definitely. If you're just looking to get to the end result of selling something and that's it, not building relationships and making them trust you, know that you're going to look out for their best interest, even if for some reason something doesn't again in the result of a sale, you'll get referrals and get business. So the best thing that you could ever get if you ever have a client that doesn't end up buying for some reason or decides not to sell, but then they start referring you to other people.
Yeah.
You did your job. You were looking out for their best interest.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. There's a little bit of background. If you guys need to chime in, you can unmute yourself or type in the chat box. But to reiterate what you said, Tony, I love build relationships and trust. Become the trusted advisor, and you will be successful in this business. So think of these as consultations, not sales calls. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen, and everyone loves a good PowerPoint. So to make this a little easier to digest, I've got a little PowerPoint here for you. And there's our little home screen. Hopefully everyone can see that. If you don't, please chime in. I'm going to start off with, what do we do, everybody? What do? We talk to people. Okay, so today is all about talking to people, talking to buyers specifically. So we did a little training, the team did a little training with Zillow a while back, And love them or hate them, you got to admit that Zillow is the #1 used real estate in the world. So we think that they know a thing or two about buyer leads and how to talk to them. So they told us that there's 3 questions that you should try to get through when you get an online buyer lead and when you get them on the phone. And a lot of people say, they start asking me questions like, well, Mike, why are you pre-approved, or do you have a proof of funds? And, all these other questions that you could ask. They really boiled it down to because their philosophy is that knowing that buyers work with the first agent they meet 70% of the time, shouldn't the goal be on the first call to begin building that trust to meet them? I mean, if I could meet you face to face, I have a much better probability of being able to build a relationship with you. And Tony just said, that's what this is all about, building relationships. So I'm going to share with you the 3 questions and briefly the philosophy behind them. So the #1 question that they taught us to ask is, hey, Tony, thank you so much for calling about 123 Main Street. When would you like to see it? And the reason that they tell you to lead with that question is that it's very disarming. People don't like to be sold. Yeah, they want to see the house and they want more information, and they probably want to buy a house. I mean, they're not on Zillow spending 3 hours a day looking for houses unless they want to buy a house. So if my opening question is, are you pre-approved? That's not cutting right to the heart of what they want. What do they want from us? They want to see the darn house. So Zillow says, open with that. Tony, when do you want to see it? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, I don't have to bust through 50 questions to schedule an appointment. Now, at the end of the call, you may or may not keep that appointment. You may end up meeting at a Starbucks instead, or at your office to have a buyer consultation, because that house, knowing Zillow, may already be under contract, right? But when do you want to see it? That's the first question. Schedule an appointment. Hey, Tony, when do you want to see it?
Right, I want to see it tomorrow.
Perfect. I have 1 o'clock or 6 o'clock available. Which one is better for you?
6.
Done. Now I'm going to go on to question #2. It's, hey, what did you like about it? Reason we ask this question is I want to start understanding what you're looking for so that I can build that relationship and become your consultant to help you find what you're looking for. And notice these are very short, open-ended questions. If we spend a lot of time talking and selling, we're not building a relationship. In fact, we're probably turning the person on the other end of the phone off. So you can imagine how people will answer this question. Oh, I love the big backyard. It's in the school district that I want to be. And what you're listening for is what's most important to them. And you should be taking notes, or if you're driving while you're calling, try to remember these things. And as soon as you get to a stopping point, things down, because later during the buyer consultation, these will all come back up. Any questions or comments?
Nope, that's great.
Next one. Are there any other homes you want to see? Okay, and this is the last question, by the way, guys. Notice there's no, are you pre-approved? Do you have a proof of funds? Certainly, if those come up in the course of conversation, naturally, you can talk about that kind of stuff. But the reason I want to ask, are there any other homes you want to see? This is going to tell me, have you been scouring the internet for houses, or are you just some looky-loo kicking tires? Oh no, I just happened to be on Facebook and I saw this one house and I just thought it'd be fun to see it. Well, maybe you're not a serious buyer, and maybe I need to vet you a little more. But if you seem like a serious buyer, you're answering this question like, oh yeah, I've been on 5 different websites looking at houses, and there's like 3 other ranches in Solon that I want to see. It really starts giving you some indication motivation level and how serious a buyer they are. Okay. Now, again, in the course of conversation, if it comes up, if they say, I'm so excited to see this house, I've been waiting for a ranch to come up in Solon, we've already got our pre-approval and we are ready to go, we've already gotten beaten out of 3 other houses. I mean, if they open the door to that conversation, I'm not saying, and Zillow isn't saying, don't talk about those things, but what they're saying is that with 3 easy questions, you can get a real idea of who on the phone. What do you think about that, Tony? Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, no, that's good. And I was going to bring up an example to expand on that. I just, you really got to explain to people about what you can do for them and why, especially if you get them off of Zillow, of why they don't have to keep on going to Zillow.
That's right.
because we had just had the example to one of our agents just this weekend. I was on the phone with a buyer, two doctors that are buying a $850,000 house. Our agent was connected to him somehow, showed him houses, got him under a buyer agreement, and then showed him more houses. Didn't realize, explain that they were continuing to go to Zillow to see other houses through people, and then that they all of a sudden they said, "Oh, we're about to put an offer on a house." And I say, "Well, no, I've been showing you houses." I go, "Well, we just saw a house last night. We called the agent from Zillow." And she still had a buyer's agreement with them, but she didn't do a great job of explaining that you don't need to go to Zillow. And you got to ask, why do you think do you feel you need to keep on going back once we build a relationship? Because these people, even though they're educated people, just didn't understand, oh, I thought I had to keep calling the listing agents or the agent on Zillow, which wasn't even the listing agent.
That's right.
To see those houses. And our agents just didn't do a great job of explaining, no, you don't, you just work through me, call me. So again, make sure you explain that. So does that kind of add on to what you were saying,
for
Mike?
sure. And some of the points you brought up, we do live classes here at HomeStar, as you guys all know. I think everyone on the call here has been to our classes. You can go to homestarclasses.com and see when they're coming up. I do a buyer class where I talk about exactly that. One of the big frustrations that agents have these days is that there's no, agents get frustrated because buyers keep going on Zillow and there's no loyalty. Well, I've been showing you 20 houses and all of a sudden you went and bought someone with someone else. Perfect segue, because the buyer consultation is step one in building loyalty. These 3 questions that you're looking at on your screen right now, this is just your foot in the door. You're not building any loyalty yet. Okay, this is someone you just met. You want to, not even met, you want to meet them so that you can begin building loyalty. That education process that Tony's talking about, that's a huge, huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the buyer class, I believe, is coming up in 2 months. If you want to check that out when that's coming up, it's actually offered for CEU now. I got that approved for 2 hours.
Oh, great.
So let me skip to the consultation now. Let's say that you either have met them at the first house. Oh, by the way, if I'm not getting someone pre-approved, you should just have the same policy for everybody. If you're asking for a pre-approval letter for one person, everybody. The way I like to work when I'm working with buyers is I'll meet anybody one time. Like Tony said, even if they don't buy a house through you, you've made this connection. Maybe you set them up on a portal search from the MLS, so they're not going to Zillow. And who knows, maybe they never buy a house, but they refer 3 of their friends over the life of your business. That's why I choose to say, I'll meet anybody once. I'm not going to show them 10 houses the first time out. I might show them one. Or I'll do what's called a buyer consultation. And that's the next screen here, buyer consultation. This is just going to be a comprehensive list of questions where you really get to know what motivates this person, what they're all about. And this is the beginnings of building that loyalty that we're talking about. At the end of the buyer consultation, we bring out the buyer agency agreement that Tony mentioned. That's next week. I don't think we're going to get to it today. But that's the agreement where you actually say, yeah, I see how you're working for me. And that's great. You want me to sign a buyer agreement? Okay. And that's the answer that you'll get once you go through this process. You can't just meet someone on the first date and say, hey, do you want to marry me? That's basically what you're doing if you're jamming a buyer's agreement in front of someone before getting to know them. So I'll rattle through these questions real quick. Tony, feel free to chime in, if you want to comment on any of them. But tell me about yourselves. That's pretty obvious. Do they have family? What are they all about? Why are they moving? I love this question. Our teammate Alex does a great job asking this one. It really gets down to the motivation level too and helps you understand them. How long have you been looking? This is a great one. Again, it speaks to motivation, and you kind of get an idea of if they've been working with someone too. You don't want to be, instead of the other woman, you don't want to be the other agent. You want to know that you're building an exclusive relationship here. How long have you been looking? And what website? So let's say they came to you through Zillow, since we're using them as the example. If they're looking on 5 different websites, they're motivated. And asking the second part, how's it going so far? Getting them to talk about good and bad, especially the bad, helps you understand what they're going through and build that relationship. What hasn't worked for you in the home buying process? Again, negatives, drawing the negatives out of them. And Tony, like you said, explaining to them how you're going to help them, why they don't need to keep clicking that link on Zillow and reaching out for other agents. Well, it hasn't worked for me that an agent I was working with is never available when I want to go see a house, and I end up losing out on houses. I'm sure you all can answer that question as to how you can benefit that buyer. Number 6, have you seen really like or written any offers on? Again, this is a great question to pull out of them if they've been working with another agent, because one of the questions you will not see on my list is, are you working with an agent? That's an easy way to get a door slammed in your face. And what I say is, if they're clicking around online, even if they are working with an agent, that agent probably isn't doing as good a job as you can do. Otherwise, why are they clicking links on Zillow? You know, they're educated and taken care of by their agent. And maybe it's just someone they met at an open house or something, you know, but if they say yes, it's an easy way to get a door slammed in your face. Instead, we're asking questions like, have you seen anything you really like, or have you written any offers? That'll really tell you how in depth they've been working with any other agents. Make sense?
Yes.
Number 7, have you narrowed your focus to a specific community? Notice we don't say city. I mean, if someone can get hyper-focused on their search, like, I want to be in Signature of Solon, I mean, how phenomenal is that to have a buyer who really is that educated that they know they want to be in a particular neighborhood? I always say that I welcome all the internet traffic, you know, all the information that's out there. Earl, we talk about this all the time. Now we have educated clients, you know, they go out there and collect all this information about schools, about neighborhoods, about amenities. And then by the time they come to us, they're already knowledgeable. Teach them everything. We can get down to the really nitty gritty stuff, the really important stuff, instead of saying, well, Solon's over here, Avon Lake is over here. Do you want to look at houses in both? No, by the time they get to us, they're usually more focused. What's important to you about the location or community that you live in? Again, just open-ended questions, get them talking, you'll learn so much. Tell me about your ideal home. Again, you might not ask all these questions, because coming up, I've got some specific ones, so they may answer some of these. But open-ended questions are a great way to get people just talking. Errol's got some comments here. You guys can click on the chat boxes here if you want to see what's happening. Yeah, he's mentioning sending them to his, you know, website. You know, you're sending people to your own personal website like Century 21. If I send them to my Century 21 site, it always comes to me instead of going to a random agent on Zillow. Love it. Thank you for that, Earl. Tell me about your ideal home. Next is, how many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Any other additional rooms you need? Those are obvious ones. Tell me location. You know, maybe they want to be on an acre or more, or maybe they want to be out in the country, or, you know, whatever. A great open-ended question to get them talking. I love this question, the 5 things you can't live without. You could flip it around and say any things that you absolutely can't live with. Some people might say tiny backyard, no garage, but these are great questions to get people talking. And again, you're the consultant. Remember, you're asking these questions because you're trying to fill their needs. Here's the negative of that one. What do we want to avoid with your new home? Guys, as you're asking these questions, you better be taking notes, and you better remember, because a sure way to break down trust and that relationship is if Tony tells me, well, Mike, I don't want a house that only has a 1-car garage, and then I take him to go see a house and it's got a 1-car garage. A sure way for me to tell Tony that I'm not listening to him, right?
Right, or you could at least send them that and just to let them know, so you don't have to go show it. Say, hey, these are the ones we're showing, but these are the ones that they have stuff that you said you didn't like, because you never know that negative that they said, no, we can't have a small backyard, but all of a sudden there's a park right in the backyard. Like, oh, well, there's a park right there, so there might be
That's
a
right.
positive that outweighs a negative, but you don't want to, waste their time with it. But a quick forward of an email or, making them aware of something that might be good.
Yeah. On the same token, by the same token, so they might tell you, oh, we have to have a ranch, got to have a ranch. What they
Mhm.
might really be telling you is, I need a first floor bedroom and full bath. So maybe a
Right.
Cape Cod or a bungalow could work. That's why it's so important to. So what I would do in that case, let's say that they say to me, oh, I want to see this Cape Cod. And I'll say, oh, I thought you said you only wanted ranches. Number
Right.
one, they know I'm listening and that I'm taking notes and trying to find them what they need. But the number two, that's when you may pull out of them that what they really want, what they said was, I want a ranch, but what they really want is a first floor bedroom and first floor full bath. All of a
Right.
sudden, your world is opened up and you can send them more houses to look at. The other part about that is that if you don't pull that out of them, you might say, well, whatever, Mike, if they find one, they'll say, hey, I want to see this Cape Cod. That's not good. I guarantee you what they're doing is they're going on realtor.com, Zillow, homes.com, wherever. They're finding Cape Cods with first floor bedrooms and bathrooms. And what are they doing? They're clicking and contacting a listing agent because you're not sending them those houses because you didn't dig deep enough to find out that was their true need.
Right.
Number 16 is another good general question. What's most important to you in buying your new home? How important is that to you? Because what's really interesting, in this question a little more, people will tell you A, B, and C are important to me. And what you really find out is A and B are somewhat important, but C is the big one. You got to figure out what the big one is. That's why it's important to ask, how important is it?
Yeah, I see a lot of that is like kind of like that conversation where you go like, yeah, I need this, and then their C could be something that is so obvious that they want that they didn't even mention, like, oh my God, how even did not mention this first, because it's in their head. It's just such a need that it wasn't even on the list. It's so important. I don't know if you feel the same way, Mike, on that.
Great example. Great example. Because if they tell you they've got 4 kids aging in range from 4 to 12, and they don't mention schools to you, in their minds, they know they want somewhere with good schools, whatever that means to them, but they may not say it. That's why if you're listening, you might say, well, gosh, Tony, you got 4 ages 4 to 12. Are schools important to you? And the answer may be no. They may say, well, no, we're sending our kids to such and such Catholic school or whatever. But listen, and asking that question, you may pull out of them what is really the most important thing that they didn't even think to mention. Gilmore, right? They might be sending their kids to Gilmore.
Right. Then the price of the house.
Right, yeah. All right, so, and then the recap. So let's recap. You want a home B and C. Did I miss anything? I love regurgitating back to them what they've just told you because they know you're listening. A couple more questions here, guys. What's important about the agent that represents you? Okay, this is where you're starting to really build that trust. The fact that you're asking what's important about the agent, that tells them that you care. And if they tell you, I want local expertise, I want integrity, whatever it is that they tell you, know now that you better focus on that because they're telling you basically what they want out of you in order to commit to working with you.
Right.
Does anyone have a problem asking that? I mean, I know it seems a little self-serving, but if you have a problem asking that question, I'm going to tell you what Tom Ferry says, and it's GOI, get over it. Because you want to be direct, okay? You want to be direct and say, what is important to you? Tell me. How soon would you like to be in your new home? What's your plan B in case this doesn't work out? If they have a solid plan B and it seems like they're heading that way anyway, that speaks to motivation. You can also be a source of plan B. What happens if their lease is up at the end of the month and they don't have a house yet? That's where you can step in and say, well, I can find you short-term rentals. But knowing that information is important. Price range, I haven't even gotten to price yet. That's how many questions there are here. And that's why, guys, don't make this about asking every question, but you should have this list handy so that you are ready to ask the questions so that you're not like trying to think of what the next question is. I would have this list with you on every single buyer consultation that you do. Have you met with a lender? And what have they told you? This is where I would suggest bringing up the pre-approval conversation. Also, if you have a lender that you work with closely, like I know we all love Hesh here at our office, Liberty Mortgage, if they're getting something from, say, Quicken, you know, I'm not bashing Quicken here. All I know is that sometimes getting a second opinion is important. This is probably the largest purchase they're ever going to make in their lives. If you were having surgery, you'd probably get a second opinion. Well, buying a house is probably going to cost you more than surgery. So bringing up this whole conversation about, you know, would a second opinion benefit you? Or if there were a benefit, would you get one? I think it's a great question to ask. Number 24, is there anyone else involved with the home buying process? You know, you hate to be running around with the wife to find out that there's a husband at home who really needs to be involved too. It's a whole, this is more of a salesman question, you know, where are the decision makers going to be home? But I think, you know, even if it's kids, like I'm dealing with some folks right now, Ian, we're dealing with some folks where there's a son-in-law, a daughter, and a husband who's not involved in the process. It's important to get to know those folks. We did a great job on that, Ian, so high five. And you're giving me a high five. And how about this one? I've asked you so many questions. Do you have any questions for me? Again, you're a trusted advisor. Be open to listen to their questions and answer them. All right, here's the homework now, unless anyone has questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen in a second so we can see the chat box again a little easier, but practice, okay? I'm gonna do my best Allen Iverson impression now and say, practice, but seriously, practice these questions, read through them, even get with a friend of yours, another agent, a spouse, anyone, but practice answering these questions and asking them with someone. I'm telling you, it will pay you dividends. If you seem confident, people are going to trust you more. If you're hesitant and unsure, why would someone trust you? That's why this practice is so important. So I'm going to, and if anyone wants this list, I'm going to exit out of the share here. I'm going to type my email address here. If anyone wants this list, they can just email me directly, or you can replay this. You can replay this on YouTube once we get it uploaded, which usually takes about 24 hours. I'll go ahead and give you the link to our videos real quick too. Tony, while I'm doing to add?
No, it's just, I like all the questions, and basically you can never ask too many questions, or just make sure it's get a feel for what they want to listen to too. So, because sometimes you could talk yourself out of a lead, so and out of a client, you talk too much. You know, you just got to feel them out. So these people want to know more. So if they want more questions, if they're sitting there, they're engaging you, they're answering all your questions. You should have a B set of lists or a second set of lists. Well, what's more things that we could talk about? If you got them in front of you and they're engaged in your conversation, don't keep it short, but you should have the important questions first. If you look like they're jittery and they're getting irritated, maybe they have places to be, they're like, well, okay, I got the main questions. When we see the next house or whatever, I got a few more for you to help narrow down what you're looking for. So you got to be, you know, it's not something, this is set. You got to get a feel for it. It's got to have a flow.
100%. I was going to say the same thing. You have to feel the energy that you're creating with them. If they seem like they're in a hurry, like you said, Tony, get the main questions out of the way. Don't make them feel interrogated. But on the flip side of that, if you're engaging with them, ask them all the questions. Ask them more.
Right.
I love it. Well, great job, everybody. I hope you got something out of this. If you need anything, you can email me. Tony, what's your best email? I'll type it here.
The Tony C21 HomeStar at Gmail.
Okay, there's Tony's best email. And you guys can check this out on YouTube too. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with the presenting of the buyer agency agreement. I know a lot of people struggle with this, so I was going to do a quick session on what it looks like, what's on it, and how to present it, because I know a lot of people struggle with presenting it and how to get it signed. So we'll hit that next week.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone. Bye.